Matthew 24:14 speaks of certain good news being preached to the whole world. And when this is done, the text says that the end will come. So if you're interested in seeing the pain and suffering of this world come to an end, it just might be time to listen. The issue at hand is about certain good news that seems to have been passed over. The verse says, the gospel of the kingdom. Well, most of us know that gospel means good news. But have you noticed how the meaning of the word kingdom seems to have been passed over? I say that because every sermon I've ever heard involving this text only makes a point about having good news of the gospel taken to the world. So I have to ask, what gospel? Are we just assuming that all Christians should know what this gospel is about? Or can we be more specific? May we take a closer look at the word kingdom? And this gospel, again, good news of the kingdom, will be preached in the whole world, then the end will come. This text is very clear on its description, being specific about the kingdom. So what's the meaning of the word kingdom? How about political, a system of belief, a government headed by a king? So what I'm hearing is good news about a government. The good news is about God's way of government, which after viewing the life of Jesus, says volumes about the kind of person God is. In other words, when the good news about the kind of person God is preached in the whole world, then the end will come. So in short, I want to make it known that this website is dwelling on the kind of person God is. So simply keep in mind throughout this presentation to filter every thought through what God has to be in order to be loving. So next up, you're about to experience some repeat that was in a former video. It's just a little more emphasis on the basis of the great controversy view. It stands on the premise of sin and rebellion, beginning with a political controversy that exploded in heaven when Lucifer, God's lead angel, campaigned to become the leader of this vast universe. Of course, this suggests that rebellion began in heaven, not with Adam and Eve. And bringing your attention to this biblical fact has everything to do with what Jesus couldn't tell us long ago. You see, Lucifer, now known as Satan, had big plans in trying to show the universe that his ways were better than God's ways. So in this process, God is allowing Satan's ways to be played out. And within this concept, it's very evident that Satan has managed to insert distorted views about God into the legal plan of salvation, which pictures the Father as vengeful, unforgiving, and severe. The evidence is overwhelmingly clear, as pastors across the country are preaching that there is no forgiveness without the shedding of blood, or that God will burn us in hell if we don't choose to love Him. So what better way to expose Satan's erroneous accusations about God than to allow him to inject those concepts into our most sacred spiritual beliefs, therefore supplying the evidence for everyone that's willing to listen to be convinced in their own minds that there really is more to learn. And it's called the rest of the story that Jesus couldn't tell us long ago. So what I'm suggesting for all pastors and spiritual leaders is to please take a long, prayerful look at the concepts presented here as an end-time message designed to expose the ways of Satan as he attempts to impersonate the second coming of Jesus. And as the reality of this picture unfolds, there is a tremendous opportunity in capturing the attention of those outside of church, for it's sure to be good news to them as Satan's false accusations against God are exposed and swept away. Now, before going on, take a look at how this Bible story could fit. It's found in Matthew 22 about a king that invited family and friends to a wedding feast. But guess what? They refused to come. Do you suppose they refused to come because they had heard that the entertainment was going to be boring? Or maybe they heard that the food wasn't kosher. In other words, could it be they heard that the message would challenge their traditional thinking. But what if the real second coming of Jesus was contingent upon a message that would exonerate God's character from Satan's deceptive accusations? Well, I would like to suggest that the king's wedding feast was all about a message feast that the family and friends refused. And as the story goes, the king had his servants go out to the highways and byways to invite those that could be hungry for a feast. Now, using the example of this story, how many would like to be at least one of the king's servants as an inviter to invite others to the feast? It shouldn't be too hard, because the only requirement within the invite is to be hungry. Your invite would be to those that are close to you, those that you care about that don't really know the God we talk about. This all came to me one day as I was driving by churches across the country, viewing the parking lots overflowing with the cars of you God-loving people. I can only think of that picture as a massive army of workforce that could be inviters, inviting their friends and loved ones to view a picture of God that after they had a chance to digest would say, "If that's what God is like, then count me in." Now, you've just been exposed to a plan to help bring those you care about from out of the cold into the fold of your fellowship to learn more about the God we talk about. Of course, there is a plan of action open to pastors and spiritual leaders upon request for further information.